Good morning, fifth grade. Today we're going to continue with Chapter 5, Lesson 4, and talking about women of the Revolution. So it says, what was it like to live during the Revolution? Women of the Revolution. The Revolutionary War impacted the lives of more than just soldiers and generals waging war. The Revolutionary War changed the lives of every civilian in the colonies. American women supported the war in many ways. Mercy Otis Warren and Hannah Winthrop recorded and wrote letters about the events of the Revolution, so everyone knew what was happening. Phyllis Wheatley, a freed African American, wrote poetry that inspired many people. Other women tended farms or minded shops while their husbands were away fighting in the army. Some women followed their husbands to war and did whatever they could do to help. Earning the nickname Molly Pitcher, Mary Ludwig Hayes carried pitchers of water to men on the battlefield. Legend has it that she took her husband's place at a cannon when he became too exhausted to fight during the Battle of Monmouth in 1778. And here is an image of Molly Pitcher showing that it helps. She was helping to load a cannon at the battle in New Jersey. Still, other women remained loyal to the British crown, meaning that they stayed loyal to Britain, either for religious reasons or because their families' businesses depended on British trade. Loyalist men and women wanted reconciliation with Great Britain. Some of them even worked actively against the revolution. There were also women who worked actively to help create the new United States. Abigail Adams exchanged many letters with her husband, John, in which they discussed important issues facing the Continental Congress. Abigail asked her husband to remember women's rights as he helped to create the new government. And so there's a primary source in their words, which is from Abigail Adams. It says, I long to hear that you have declared an independency. And, by the way, in the new code of laws, which I suppose it will be necessary for you to make, I desire you would remember the ladies and be more generous and favorable to them than your ancestors. Do not put such unlimited power into the hands of the husbands. Remember, all men would be tyrants if they could. If particular care and attention is not paid to the ladies, we are determined to foment a rebellion and will not hold ourselves bound by any laws in which we have no voice or representation. That your sex are naturally tyrannical is a truth so thoroughly established as to admit of no dispute. But such of you as wish to be happy willingly give up the harsh title of master for the more tender and endearing one of friend. Why then not put it out of the power of the vicious and the lawless to use us with cruelty and indignity with impunity? So this is from a letter to John Adams from Abigail Adams on March 31st of 1776. And Abigail Adams is pictured here. So this is her writing a letter saying, hey, don't forget about the ladies in the Declaration of Independence. Make sure that we have some rights too, and do better than your ancestors did. Don't just treat women as property. Men are known as the masters. And so she says, don't just think of yourself as the master. Think more of yourself as a friend. So that was kind of a really cool and before her time kind of speech or letter written from Abigail Adams. So here we continue with The Secret War. Life during the Revolutionary War was filled with divisions and intrigue. Many loyalists spied on the Patriots for the British. Some who helped the British made it appear that they were instead helping the Patriot cause. Benedict Arnold was an American general who eventually turned traitor. He gave important information about a planned invasion of Canada to the British. He later fled to England, but people started calling any traitor a Benedict Arnold because of his treachery. So traitor and the name Benedict Arnold and traitor are now like synonymous. So if you think of the word traitor, people automatically think of Benedict Arnold because he was the major traitor in the Revolutionary War. So he was a general for the American army, for the colonists. And he actually fed information from the American army to the British and gave them a heads up on what the Americans were going to do. And so this made him a traitor in the eyes of the American colonists. The Patriot side had its own spies. Nathan Hale was attempting to spy on the British in 1776 when he was captured. He was hanged without a trial. Reportedly, his last words were, "I only regret that I have but one life to lose for my country." One of the most successful American spies was James Armistead, a man born into slavery. He volunteered to spy for General Lafayette, managing to become a servant to the British General Cornwallis. Armistead smuggled important information to Lafayette, which helped the Continental Army win the Battle of Yorktown. After the war, Lafayette helped Armistead win his freedom. So this is a picture here of Nathan Hale, who was put to death for being a Patriot spy. Continuing on with African Americans join the cause. This is a man dressed as a soldier of the 1st Rhode Island Regiment. The words "all men are created equal" in the Declaration of Independence gave hope to enslaved African Americans. Many supported the revolution because they believed those famous words might one day apply to them. In all, about 5,000 African American soldiers served in the Continental Army. The 1st Rhode Island Regiment, formed in 1778, consisted mainly of African Americans. These included men freed from slavery in exchange for their service. Another African American freed from slavery in exchange for fighting was Peter Salem. He lived in Massachusetts and fought in the battles of Concord and Bunker Hill. African Americans also served in the Continental Navy. A 14-year-old freed African American named James Forten was captured in 1781 during his service as a powder boy. The British offered him his freedom, but he turned down the offer, saying, "No, I'm a prisoner for my country, and I'll never be a traitor to her." He was held for 7 months as a prisoner of war. So this is a 14-year-old who was fighting for our country, and he chose not to take his freedom. He would rather stay a prisoner and stay loyal to the Americas, to the United States, which is a pretty cool feat. So now we also have Native Americans that are deciding whose side to join. So we have Native Americans choose sides. During the Revolutionary War, Native Americans had to decide whom to support. As the colonies grew bigger, they began to take more and more land from the Native Americans. The British promised to protect Native Americans' land from the Americans who wanted to settle there. So most of the Iroquois Confederacy, led by Joseph Brant, sided with the British. The Oneida and Tuscarora supported the American cause. Brant's Native American loyalists fighting for the British attacked American settlements in New York's Mohawk Valley. They also provided scouts to help the British troops. The Iroquois eventually lost faith in the British and stopped participating in the war. However, Americans would continue to regard Native Americans as enemies. As a result, many Americans felt no guilt about taking more lands from the Native peoples after the war. Continuing on with the hardships of war. So it says wartime shortages, paper dollars equaling $1 coin from 1777 to 1781. So if you look at this, it says the number of continental dollars, so 0, 20, 40, 60, 80, and then in the years. So it says the amount of paper continental dollars needed to equal $1 coin rose dramatically during the Revolutionary War. So it only took less than 10 continental dollars to equal a dollar coin in 1777. But then in 1781, only 4 short years later, it took 140 continental dollars to equal $1 coin. So let's see how that happened. So it says Congress had trouble paying for the war. To afford expensive supplies, they began to print more and more dollars called continentals. They printed so many continentals, however, that the money began to lose its value due to inflation. Soon the bills were nearly worthless. A pair of shoes that had cost a few continental dollars at the start of the war cost 5,000 continental dollars by the end. So they kept printing more and more money, thinking, okay, we'll buy this, we need to buy this, we need to buy this. But by the Congress printing more and more money, that money became more and more worthless. It had less value to it. There was nothing to back it up. So because their money lost almost all of its value, people had trouble buying the food and supplies they needed. Even for the wealthy, goods that had once been imported from Great Britain were now hard to find. These shortages led people to hoard food, clothes, and other goods, keep more than they actually needed. It meant they were hoarding them and keeping them. So some people hoarded to try to support their families. Others did it to make money by charging high prices to others. Laws were passed against profiteering, but the laws were difficult to enforce. So we talked about profiteering in the last lesson, where it was people were keeping goods, hoarding goods, to where they were scarce for everyone else, and then they could sell them for more money than what they paid for them, and they made a profit off of them. So that's called profiteering.